Ever heard a word that you think you know what it means, but you get the sense talking with someone else that they're using it in a different way? How do you know who is right? Do you really know what it means? The cloud is one of those words. Is it a pretty white fluffy thing in the sky? Is it something that you store pictures in? Is it something that your IT department harnesses for data? Welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast. I'm your host, Todd Wyant. This is the show where we empower you to transform industries by championing innovation. You're invited to join me on my mission to embrace and share the innovations transforming the AEC, MEP, and manufacturing industries. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our new website, bridgingthegappod.com. And please share with your friends and coworkers while leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Today, I'm excited to talk with Doug Dahlberg, Director of IT Operations at Applied Software. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hey, thank you very much. That's a well-written intro.
Oh, thanks. I do what I can.
Wow.
Can you start by giving us just a brief overview of your background?
I've been in the architecture and engineering community for about 25, 30 years. I started out as an architectural firm, moved to an engineering firm. I've had all kinds of roles from CAD operator to IT manager to a partner in a firm. Kind of did the whole gamut, even office manager. I've had that tossed in.
Yeah, jack of all trades there.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start kind of unpacking this vague, mysterious term that is being thrown out there a lot. Because my hunch is that it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and that's the cloud. So let's take a moment and kind of define what is the cloud.
Yeah, the cloud, the definition of the cloud, it doesn't have a lot of boundaries and definitions, just like, and it's always changing, just like real clouds.
Yeah.
But in a nutshell, it's services and software that are deployed through the internet that are not run on your computer or in your data center. You're getting them from somewhere else.
Gotcha. Okay, nice. Can you unpack what kind of the traditional method for managing your IT infrastructure, and what are some trend lines that you're noticing moving forward?
Sure. So as far as traditionally, you'd have an office and you'd want to centralize all your stuff. Kind of put your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
It makes it easier to manage. It's cheaper. You're not having a lot of duplication. It's great when you have one office, but as your company grows and everybody who's successful, their company grows, and then you end up having to duplicate that in different locations. So you end up with tech sprawl.
Yeah.
So everything kind of grows out of control and it's not really easily manageable.
Yeah, I imagine that would get pretty chaotic really quick.
It starts out great when you're a small company, but as you get bigger, your skill sets have to grow with it. But then all of a sudden, as your technology is just out of control, and you need that. What's next? What's going to help me get there?
Yeah.
The cloud can be that. Gotcha.
So what are some things to think through before migrating data to the cloud?
So migrating data to the cloud, it's not just storing the pictures there, right?
Uh-huh.
It's about understanding what your company does for a workflow. And there are certain applications that work great in the cloud. Web applications, those are great in the cloud. Email, those are great in the cloud.
Uh-huh.
But there are other applications that are sensitive to how they work that a cloud is not the fit. And it's understanding what your business is and how it works, whether the cloud works for you or not. And it's going to work for you in different areas. It's just not a one solution fits all kind of gimmick.
Yeah, gotcha. So what do you see as kind of the top benefits for a company to migrate to the cloud?
Well, as an IT professional, one of the biggest things is cost savings, because you're able to take, as you have those, it's economics of scale, I believe is the term. They can do things, they can store things cheaper than you can or I can. The reliability, they can come up with these crazy reliability standards, like Amazon has got 9 nines of reliability. So what that means is every 10,000 years, they're going to lose one file.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's what it comes down to. I was like, well, how do we know? We haven't got there. But it's just the amount of stuff they put into the data centers and the engineers. They're doing all these great, this technology that scales out, because you have Amazon, they have Google, you have Azure. They're all chasing one another. And as the end consumer, we're the benefactors of all this great competition. It gets cheaper, it gets faster, and it gets more reliable.
Nice. can't beat that.
No, I can't.
So I'm assuming that it's not as easy as, just kind of magically pushing a button and poof, you're in the cloud. What are some of the different kind of methodologies on migrating data or migrating to the cloud for people to kind of think through before they started?
Okay. So you can be really thoughtful about it, or you can do cannonball. It's either all in, or you're going to be very thoughtful about it. You really wish, I hate to go back to what we talked about earlier, but it's really about understanding your workflow.
Yeah.
Like in architectural and engineering firms, there are certain applications that benefit greatly from the cloud, and there are certain applications that are really horribly impacted by using the cloud. Cloud storage is not a very CAD-friendly environment. So, but there are a lot of other areas that are for collaboration and sharing, and then working with other firms internally and externally. The cloud really enables that. I mean, it just really is about going back to understanding what you do and what your people do.
Any advice on kind of some things to think through while you're going through your workflow of this would be a good thing for the cloud, this would not?
Sure. Email is a natural one. The type of technology that drives websites, emails, is a disconnected technology, is not done live streaming. I don't know if you get that or not. Or not constantly streaming email. You get a notification, it pops up when you have email. It's not constant. CAD applications are very susceptible to a thing that's called latency. One of the big things with the cloud, it's great, it's huge, it's big, but it's not down the hall. Okay, it's across the street, it's across the country, it might be across the world. Okay, so my internet, your internet, internet from 5 years ago, it's all the same speed. It's not how fast the internet, it's how much of the internet you get. So when you're buying like home internet, they're always talking about bandwidth. I think bandwidth is a better term than using speed, because it's all the same speed. Do you have a 75 meg pipe, or do you have a 25 meg pipe? It's still the width of the data coming at you, not how fast it is.
Interesting.
So it's like a water pipe. I could have a big water pipe at home, but the water still has to go from the pumping station to my house.
Right.
Same with the internet. So if the cloud, the way the data works, some data doesn't behave well when it's in a high latency environment. Like if it takes a while to get there, I've got lots of it, but it's coming in these really big slow chunks. Certain CAD applications don't do well with that. Certain applications that have SQL plugins that are live and they do this kind of pulsing type thing. When they don't get that pulse back, things kind of crumble.
Gotcha.
They kind of fall apart. So latency is the big thing about the cloud, because the cloud it's here, it's everywhere. It's just not in your building.
Right. Gotcha. Interesting. So what are some reasons why a firm might opt not to migrate to the cloud? And are they valid reasons, or are they just kind of burying their head in the sand because the cloud is here to stay?
That's a very interesting one. A lot of times we hear the term, I'm not going to the cloud, it's not safe. We get a lot of these stories from the mainstream media that will exemplify really, look what happened here. Somebody got in and this company's now out of business. Those are very rare and far in between. They're just widely publicized. If you think about the resources I could throw at securing a solution around my company compared to like an Amazon or Azure, Microsoft, they've got the resources to really throw a lot of security around things. So you get people who are like, well, I don't want to get in the cloud because it's going to be, everybody has my data. If there's a security issue, that's not the issue. You're more, what is it? It's safer to ride in an airplane than it is in a car.
Yeah.
But honestly, on takeoff, do you actually believe that?
Everybody grips it a little tighter.
That's exactly right. So when it comes back to the internet and then the cloud and stuff, like, sure, it's safer. My office is not as safe as the cloud stuff. And honestly, it's actually kind of the reverse.
Interesting.
It's just hard to believe. Like I said, at takeoff, I'm one of those people I think I feel better in my car.
Yeah. No. So you were just talking about the safety element. One of the big fears that we hear a lot is around cybersecurity and the cloud. And cybersecurity, is becoming this huge booming business. So what can people do to help mitigate those security risk or the perceived security risk of the cloud?
That's a very good question. So stick with services that have an SLA, a service level agreement.
Okay.
that's basically where your provider is putting his money where the mouth is. He's putting his money where his mouth is. He's going to give you the service. He's going to protect you, and it's in his financial best interest to do it. Otherwise, he's going to lose money. That's just one of the best things you can do. Because if it's going to affect you, it's going to affect 1,000 other people. They're not going to let that happen. Just because it's financially it's ruinous to them. They just can't do that. So, looking for SLAs. So, going for, the big brand names, sticking with names, big companies, going with your Microsofts, going with your Google, going with, AWS. Go with the big brand names, look at the SLA and seeing what you're getting into, and then seeing what your mitigating clauses are. But if you stick to that stuff, you're going to be a lot more reliable, and you're going to have a lot better security resources at your disposal than something you buy off the shelf and try to do yourself. Because in that case, you're the only expert. Whereas I were to call somebody and say, Microsoft, I've got thousands of experts I can talk to and rely on.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. The collective mind is always better than the individual.
Oh, the high-priced experts always beats me doing it, right?
Yeah. So, and it kind of shifts the risk and the potential downfall. The burden over
the
to
burden
them.
is
Thank you.
Yeah. So and it's economics of scale. I mean, they can do things faster, more secure, and cheaper than we can.
Sure.
That's one of the terms you'll hear a lot with the cloud is economics of scale. It's about reliability, it's performance, security falls in there. They can have more people looking at things than we can.
Yeah,
it's real simple.
Yeah. So how does the cloud help protect a business in the unfortunate event of some sort of disaster? Hurricane strikes or earthquake happens.
Gosh, you hear those all the time in the news, and it just seems to be the global warming. You hear about all these disasters all the time. All these data centers, and like Microsoft Azure, for instance, they have 56 regions, but there's like over 100 data centers that cover these, because they put a data center in, whether it's Amazon or Azure or Google, and the buildings themselves, all the data inside replicates across the building. The buildings themselves replicate to other data centers. So it's really hard to take any of these data centers down, because the other one takes over for it. All this, it's self-healing, the workload shifts. It's very, very difficult. It's this huge, massive infrastructures that, I can put a UPS in a building, I can put a server in there, and I can call it redundant. I can say I've got internet and I've got a second internet. But these places, it's you've got hundreds of data centers, thousands of people. It's just that economic scale. You can't compete with that. So your data is much more safe in a cloud type environment, because just the infrastructure that goes into it. It's really neat. And if you ever get a chance to tour one of these data centers, you should take you up down the opportunity and try it out. It's really neat.
Yeah, cool. So as a veteran IT professional, I'd love to get some of the stories from you of the good, and everybody loves a juicy bad story of cloud migrations.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll change names, protect the innocent.
Yeah.
So a good one. So email, that's an easy one. Moving people to a cloud-based email system, you can't compete. If you were to say, hey, I've got 100 people working for me now, and my company is really great, and they buy another company, right? So then all of a sudden, guess what? You just inherited 50 more employees. And that's just the first office that's coming aboard. You got another 3 offices, another 100. So you now have to pick up 150 employees. Well, you're going to look at your email server and you're like, well, that guy's toast. In the cloud, it's just a couple of clicks away. Office 365 is a great example of being able to not only give out email, but give out, SLA-backed, rich, and more storage that you can do in your own server data center. So those are that one's a no-brainer, and we took advantage of it. We've done several acquisitions along the way, and it's so much easier just to add people that way. It's literally a couple clicks away. I don't have to spin up anything. It's just a mouse click away. Now, the unfortunate side stuff, we do know a couple of war stories. So there was an engineering firm, and engineering architectural, I don't really remember. We don't want to really just specify, just keep it kind of mysterious.
We're not naming any names.
No, absolutely not.
We'll put it in the show notes.
No disclaimers. But they had actually moved to the cloud for storage, but instead of using a an appliance that would cache it or something like that. They actually were just, all their employees were connected to a cloud storage service that was more of a document management service, and it wasn't compatible with their CAD applications. So they'd really gotten to the point where they spent all this time and all this effort and were uploading and had all their file systems up there. And they went through this and they didn't really, I don't know if they really vetted out the system prior to rollout and switching over for production, but their production ground to a halt because that latency, that little thing we were talking about speed earlier, it's not really, everybody's the same speed, it's the volume. It's that distance to the cloud. Where you'd open a file in under 10 seconds, that became 8 minutes.
Yikes.
So then if you think about all the staff, and every time you open, every time you hit save, it's a coffee break.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable.
It really impacted them greatly. And it's a great storage system. What they went to is a great document management system. It just did not work with their workflow. It was not compatible with what they were doing. And that's just one of those things where you really have to know what you do, what your workflow is, and understand your applications, your end users, and give them the right solution. Unfortunately, that didn't work out well for them.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like, you really got to kind of see the end in mind, and work backwards almost of this is what we want, but this is kind of the reality of what we got.
It's
marry the two.
Yes, there is a reality check because the cloud is not some silver bullet panacea that's going to cure everybody's ills.
That'd be nice though.
I'm sure marketing would love that, but it can't. It's just not possible the way technology is today, and it's learning to change your workflows to take advantage of the things that are great, and then this is not going to work right now. Let's just stick with this. Let's do something different here. Because not everything can go there. Do you remember back in... No, you probably don't. All right, so I'm older, and I remember back when CD-ROMs first came out for computers. So they went from floppy diskettes to putting everything on CDs. So there people would just all of a sudden just start throwing all this... It's a CD-ROM version of X. And they would just start throwing CDs at you of all this junk. They didn't actually make better software. They said, well, I don't have to worry about storing. I just give you one CD instead of 50 floppies. There you go. So you got this plethora of software that came out, taking advantage of the new format, but it wasn't any better. It was just garbage. It was just like more junk. Now there's more my computer gone because you installed, this software was, a couple megs before. Now it's a couple of gig.
Yeah.
There goes my computer. It's full now. Thank you very much for this encyclopedia of nothing.
Nice. The CD makes me laugh. I'm taking a side tangent here, but my memory of CDs is burning music CDs.
Oh yeah.
Mixed. I got very into it. I was really good DJ.
Oh really?
Started mixing a lot of CDs. It was great fun.
One of my favorite memories of CDs is back in the day, AOL used to be a huge internet subscriber.
Yeah, sure.
Downstairs. Sure. So you would always get these little AOL CDs in the mail, like
all the time.
A week.
Yeah.
So they, the secretaries would come up and say, "Here you go. You can just reuse that, right?" No. Well, it's just like a floppy, isn't it? No, you can't reuse it. So it's like, you mean they're just throwing this out in the garbage? I'm like, yes. It's just a terrible waste. Like, I know. I mean, all these, I wonder how many AOL CDs are in the landfills across America.
Probably a lot.
Oh,
it's just a whole layer.
Oh yeah, it's a whole layer. They check the strata. Yeah, we're in the 90s here. You can tell by the AOL CD levels, and then we can see, the 8 tracks were down here.
That's right.
You can just kind of do an archaeological thing.
They'll find it out in 100 years when they're
just do a cross section. We can look back. CDs, look, AOL. Yeah.
Right. What are these things? This is random. So you mentioned scalability with the cloud. So how does the cloud really help a company become scalable?
It gives you access to a global data center. It's democratization of technology. So a company nowadays can literally go and move certain services to the cloud, and there's no scale limit. Basically, it's whatever you can afford to pay. Okay, so that's a little bit of a scale limit, let's be honest. But as far as what you were to go do stuff yourself on your own versus the cloud services, like from 5 years ago, a company now can have like the global a Forbes 500 Fortune companies technology list. This is your menu of all the cool technology they've got. I've got that now today. I've got access to data centers. I'm able to give my employees the ability to do work. So today's trend, as far as like what folks do, a lot of people work from home. That's kind of the new normal, right? Sure. It's something a lot of folks get to benefit from. when they're working with technology. And now it is beyond just give me my email, give me a phone at home. It's complete connectivity, and being able to connect those folks to all the different types of technology. You can really do that now thanks to a lot of the services in the cloud. Whereas 5 years ago, that was the stuff that was reserved for the Fortune 500 companies. So now you've got this huge ability to do this at will. It's really neat, and so that's exciting if you're the geeky IT guy.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So collaboration is a huge major buzzword in the AEC industry. What effect does the cloud have on collaboration between multiple firms and even a firm that has multiple offices?
Yeah, so we actually there's a lot of great ways to collaborate. Most of them, for AE, we're talking about applications that we're going to take advantage of, something like say BIM 360. That's a really great product that allows internal collaboration and that external collaboration you were just talking about. It does allow you to then share projects. It's a great Revit-based product. Works with Revit. Just added Civil 3D support, so it's constantly branching out and improving and getting better. Now that's a good one for doing kind of a limited collaboration, because it's limited on the different file formats.
Gotcha.
If you want to do whole hog, go on in and be kind of like file agnostic, I want to collaborate on everything between all my offices. You look at something like a Panzura type file system that doesn't care if it's Revit, doesn't care if it's MicroStation, doesn't care if it's Civil 3D. It just works. It does collaboration. It allows it between all your offices, and it's agnostic. It's the kind of technology that does it seamlessly, requires no training. I can't say enough nice things about it, sorry.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'd love for you to kind of unpack what Panzura is a bit more.
Sure. It's a hybrid file system that allows you to have multiple caching appliances. Basically, I've got a file server that looks like it's in every office, or can be up in the cloud actually. And that's one of the neater implementations. So I have a couple offices, I've got a Panzura in there, and every person, regardless of whatever office, they always see the same files at the same time. Revit works, whereas traditionally, if you're going to work in Revit with a couple of friends or whatever in your office, it's got to be in your office. Now Revit on Panzura lets you do that in any office in North America. You can basically work collaboratively. So if you're an architect and you've got multiple studios across the country, it's everybody's in. We completely support that. That works real great. It works great with Civil 3D. It works fantastic. It works with all the different offices, because with different workflows, you'll have, like in a civil firm, you have one branch that's doing survey, one that's doing the road design, you have one that's doing the site design, one that's doing hydraulic studies, and you're able to leverage the different people you have in the different geographies on one project, as opposed to shipping the stuff around or shipping the people around like we used to do that. And honestly, it's great for quality of life, because if I want to retain my employees, keeping them busy is one of the great ways of doing it, and letting them work on projects across the country with different people, that just brightens their day. It makes it a more fulfilling work life when you get to do things without having to actually go to different places. It cuts down travel costs. You get to work with all these different folks. Collaboration's a neat thing.
Yeah,
I really believe it's one of the neat things about Panzura. It really enables it.
That's awesome. Very nice. So I got one more question for you, and it's about how IT departments can be more proactive with their budgets. But if you want to hear Doug's answer to that question, you're going to need to subscribe to our podcast.
Gotcha.
Well, thank you so much, Doug, for joining us on the show and unpacking the cloud and migration and where IT is going.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to those tuning in. If you're interested in how the cloud migration or Panzura can work for you, reach out to our sponsor, Applied Software, for a discovery call, or you can visit asdi.com and let them know we sent you. You can listen anytime by simply going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to check out our website, bridgingthegappod.com. Until next time, I'm Todd Wyant, thanking you for joining us on the Bridging the Gap podcast, sponsored by Applied Software. Keep innovating.